Once you've finished planning your roster and you believe it's complete and that's what you intend on working when that period comes about, we need to go through the process of roster approvals. This does two things. It publishes the roster to staff so they can actually see the period in question and know what they're working ahead of time, which of course we need to do. But it also gives you the ability to analyse how effective your roster is. Now, we won't go through all of the analysis because that's kind of unique to every department and worth just going through in your own time. And if you need any information as to how the system comes to the totals that it does, by all means just give the rostering team a call and we can go through that on a one-to-one basis. So the publication of rosters to staff is quite important, and of course we do need to get the period in question published to staff 6 weeks before it's due to be worked. So there is a deadline. The one that you've seen on the unit summary, if your roster is set up to require approvals, of course if you do fixed patterns across the board you probably won't need to go through the roster approvals process, but if it's shift work, for example on wards and clinics and departments as they are, you will need to publish rosters to staff to ensure that they know that what they're working in a timely manner. To do that, very much like the auto roster, we use the purple bar. Now, again, rosters are built in a 4-week period rather than a calendar month. Of course, you can build more than one roster period to make sure it covers a calendar month, but we deal with roster approvals on a 4-weekly basis, as that's the period of time that they span. To publish a roster to staff, all we have to do is right-click and go to the roster analyzer, and within the roster analyzer, along with all this information regarding your roster costings, how safe you are, how much annual leave percentage you have, we have the button down at the bottom that stipulates partially approve roster. Now the approvals process is a 2-step process. The idea is that the ward manager or the person responsible for rostering that unit would partially approve the roster and kind of propose it, and the second level approver, usually a matron or senior manager of that department, would then fully approve the roster to say, I agree, this is what we're going to go with, or they also have the ability to decline it and state, actually, we need to look at this, it's not quite safe, or we don't have enough people on leave, or so on and so forth. So there's a 2-step approval process before it's published to staff. So we'll go through this now. I'm just going to click partially approve roster. And the purple bar that is just a purple bar at the moment will then be a purple bar with one yellow tick in the right hand side, just to indicate that that roster period has now been partially approved. And I can now close this window down. You see we have no other buttons. And we have one yellow tick, and if I hover over the purple bar or the yellow tick for that matter, it tells me that the approval status is first level approved. We're just waiting for the second level approver to step in and do their bit. It's also labelled here partially approved, just to indicate the process has been started. The second level approver would do exactly the same thing. So if you are a second level approver, you would just go to roster analyzer. Once there's a yellow tick, you can't do it before, you won't have any options, and then click the fully approve or reject, depending on what your decision is. I've now logged into a different account that does have the ability to fully approve, and all I'm going to do is do exactly the same thing as I did before. So if I right click the purple bar, go to roster analyzer, and I'll now have a few more options available to me that give me the ability to either fully approve the roster or reject the roster. So if I click fully approve, OK, that will now change the single yellow tick to a double green tick. At this point, the roster is now published. It's fully approved and it's ready to be viewed. And as such, the system emails out every single staff member to state that there's a new roster available to be viewed in their system, the employee online system. Just a note as well, in terms of once a roster has been partially approved, if you are a full approver, you will also be notified via email that a roster is awaiting your full approval, just so you know that it's due to be done. But as a rule of thumb, it's always 6 weeks minimum ahead of time.